Welcome to the Deep Dive. We cut through the noise to get you truly informed. And today we're looking at something urgent, something escalating right on our southern border. Recent reports, well, they confirm an alarming surge in threats. And it's not just about drugs anymore. We're really talking about a sophisticated network that is actively challenging our national security.
That's right. It's a major concern.
And just recently, Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed a U.S. strike. It killed 11 members of what he specifically called the Tren de Aragua narco-terrorist group off the coast of Venezuela.
And that term, narco-terrorist, that's significant.
It really is. For you listening, it signifies an organization that uses terror, uses violence to achieve its goals. It often blurs the lines between crime and actual warfare. And this incident, it signals a potentially major policy shift. Secretary Rubio made it very clear. The U.S. will no longer, quote, sit back.
A definite change in tone there.
Absolutely. This isn't just about narcotics anymore. It's arms trafficking, human trafficking, even advanced drone technology. We're facing an enemy that's incredibly well-funded, heavily armed, and frankly, actively destabilizing the region. And that has direct impacts right here in American communities.
Direct and devastating impacts.
So today, we're taking that deep dive into this escalating border situation. We'll explore the range of decisive actions discussed in our sources, actions aimed at confronting these powerful drug cartels that, well, some argue are threatening our nation's sovereignty and safety.
Exactly. And you've shared some really critical sources with us, detailed reports on potential U.S. military options, insights into conservative foreign policy thinking, recent policy announcements. Our mission here is to pull out the key facts, the key insights about these unprecedented threats from Mexican cartels. We need to understand the true scale of their power, look at why past policies might have failed, and then discuss a specific framework, often called an American First approach, that proposes ways to secure our border and protect our citizens.
Okay, let's start there. You laid out an alarming picture just now. What struck me in the sources is how these aren't just, street gangs. They operate with military-level capabilities. What really jumps out from the data?
It's a critical distinction. And the data, well, it's stark. First, the fentanyl crisis. It's nothing short of a direct assault on American lives.
The numbers are just unbelievable.
They really are. Illicit fentanyl has pushed U.S. overdose deaths way past 100,000 annually since 2021. Think about that. Between 2021 and 2023, we recorded 326,126 overdose deaths. Fentanyl seizures tripled in that time.
300,000 lives. It's a national tragedy.
It absolutely is. And it's fueled directly by these cartels.
And the money behind it? It must be enormous.
Astronomical. Our sources estimate cartels generate something like $30 billion each year, illicit revenue.
$30 billion.
Yeah. To put that in perspective, they're now considered the fifth largest employer in Mexico, maybe 160,000 to 185,000 members. That's practically an army with a huge budget.
An army with high-tech gear, too, right?
Yeah,
Not just numbers.
Exactly. They have military-level weapons, anti-aircraft systems, armored vehicles, and they're increasingly using advanced tech like drones and signal jamming systems.
Drones, that really changes the game, doesn't it? We're way beyond just drug runners here.
Way beyond. NORAD, for instance, estimates cartel drones cross into the U.S. over 1,000 times every single month.
1,000 times a month, wow.
In the Rio Grande Valley alone, Border Patrol reported over 10,000 drone incidents in just 1 year. Look, these aren't just for watching. Cartels have used weaponized drones with explosives against rivals in Mexico.
So the obvious question, the terrifying question is, when do they point those north?
That's the critical national security question we have to face.
And as you mentioned, it's not just drugs and weapons. The threat seems much broader now, tangled up with migration, even espionage.
Precisely. The sources confirm it. Cartels are key players in mass illegal migration. They're increasingly moving people linked to foreign terrorist organizations, FTOs, think ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and even helping espionage operations by hostile foreign governments.
So it's moved far beyond a simple law enforcement issue.
Oh, absolutely. It's a profound national security imperative. It demands a decisive, really multifaceted response.
And I read about this connection to foreign adversaries, particularly China. That connection really stood out. How deep does that go?
It's a crucial link. Our sources highlight the Chinese Communist Party through its chemical companies, its criminal groups. They provide a steady stream of fentanyl precursors to the Mexican cartels.
So the raw ingredients for the poison.
Exactly. And then Chinese money launderers help the cartels hide the profits from U.S. law enforcement. It's clear these cartels are, well, willing partners for anyone looking to destabilize the U.S. It creates this really dangerous, multi-layered threat.
Okay, so we have this massive evolving threat, but the U.S. has been fighting a war on drugs for decades. Our sources, like from the Cato Institute, suggest a pretty dismal track record. What went wrong? What are the lessons learned or maybe not learned?
It's fascinating, actually. The historical approach focusing on, say, crop eradication, interdiction in source countries, it just hasn't worked as intended.
Right.
Often, it seems to have just fueled more corruption, social problems, disorder, sometimes even enriching the very cartels we were trying to stop. There's this thing called the push-down pop-up phenomenon.
Heel down, pop up.
Yeah, you apply pressure in one spot and the illicit trade just pops up somewhere else.
So trying to solve it here just moves it over there, maybe makes it worse.
That's often what happened. Look at Colombia. When those cartels declined, control shifted north to Mexican cartels, who were just as violent, if not more so. Then increased pressure on Mexican cartels after 2006, pushed them into Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. Fragile countries already. And boom, massive spikes in corruption and violence there.
And within Mexico itself?
In Mexico, President Calderon's military offensive back in 2006, it led to outright warfare. Fatalities surged. The homicide rate went from about 10 per 100,000 in 2005 to 29 per 100,000 by 2019. It just shows that an unfocused offensive, or one that isn't properly supported, can actually make the problem much, much worse. More violence, more instability.
It's sobering how quickly these threats have grown right on our doorstep. So what about Mexico's current government? Are they stepping up? Are they aligned with U.S. interests here?
Well, the relationship, especially on counter-narcotics cooperation, it's deteriorated rapidly.
Really?
President López Obrador's government really slowed down enforcement. They put limits on security cooperation, and that effectively gave cartels more freedom to operate.
And the new president?
President Claudia Sheinbaum, who took office in October 2024, she's indicated she'll continue those policies. She actually stated, and this is a quote, "Under no circumstance will we accept interventions, interference, or any other act from abroad that is detrimental to the integrity, independence, and sovereignty of the country."
Strong words.
Very strong. Now, Mexico has shown some willingness on illegal migration. They delivered 55 cartel figures to the U.S., but their stance on confronting the cartels directly, especially with U.S. help, it remains resistant.
It sounds like a dangerous vacuum then, one the cartels are exploiting.
They absolutely are.
So given this complex, dangerous situation, our sources discuss a particular policy framework. It's often associated with a conservative, maybe America First perspective. Let's look at what that framework suggests for reclaiming control.
Right. This framework, it really emphasizes national sovereignty, military strength, and decisive action. A key element confirmed by Secretary Rubio is President Trump's determination that these narco-terrorist organizations pose a threat to the national security of the United States.
So framing it explicitly as a national security threat, not just crime.
Precisely. And Secretary Rubio made it clear that direct strikes, like the recent one in the Caribbean, quote, will happen again. That marks a significant shift from older seize-and-apprehend policies.
So it's moving away from treating them purely as a law enforcement problem towards, well, the sources use the term war, a direct confrontation.
That's the implication. And a critical tool discussed is designating Mexican cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, FTOs.
What would that FTO designation actually do?
It unlocks substantial resources, legal authorities, to confront them much more directly. Plus, the president already has constitutional authority as commander-in-chief under Article 2 to deploy the U.S. military for duties necessary or appropriate for the defense of the United States. That includes peacetime, wartime, essentially protecting our territory and interests.
And that could include these cartel threats.
The argument is, yes, absolutely, protecting territorial integrity.
Okay, military action is one angle. What about economic pressure? Can the U.S. leverage its influence to push Mexico?
The sources definitely highlight that potential. The U.S. has economic power. For instance, the USMCA, the big trade deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, is up for renegotiation in 2026.
Ah, leverage.
Right. That could be used to push a reluctant Mexican government to actually confront the cartels operating within its borders. Trade barriers, tariffs, those are other tools that have been considered.
And what about immediate practical steps on our side of the border? What's proposed there?
The first steps often mentioned are things like substantially boosting CBP customs and border protection capacities, increasing restrictions on crossings, both legal and illegal, ramping up law enforcement efforts, targeting the money flows, the illicit finance, and sanctioning corrupt Mexican officials who might be helping the cartels. These are seen as vital first moves to reassert control.
Okay, so you've outlined the framework, this more assertive stance. Let's get into the specifics, the nuts and bolts. What kind of military tools and tactics are actually discussed in the sources? Some of this might surprise people.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting because the U.S. military has unique capabilities far beyond what we normally see at the border. First, ISR intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, meaning deploying military drones, UAS, unmanned aircraft systems, surveillance planes, thermal sensors, even satellites, to monitor cartel activity not just at the border, but beyond it, inside Mexico. It's about proactive intelligence gathering, not just reacting.
Seeing the threat before it arrives. And what about countering those thousands of cartel drones you mentioned earlier?
Right, for counter-drone operations. To deal with those 1,000-plus monthly incursions, the military could deploy personnel to actively monitor and, yes, shoot down cartel drones using conventional small arms or even advanced counter-UAS systems like jamming technology. It's about taking back control of our own airspace near the border.
That would be a major shift. What about physical barriers and managing migration flows? The sources touch on that too.
On border infrastructure, yeah, expanding physical barriers, adding security lighting, access roads, surveillance towers, all to help enforcement move and to restrict smuggling routes. And for migration enforcement, the military could use its transport vehicles, its facilities, for large-scale detention and deportation of illegal aliens. This isn't unprecedented. Historically, bases like Fort Bliss, Fort McCoy, even Guantanamo Bay have housed large numbers of migrants or refugees during past crises.
Okay, but the most, let's say, aggressive action outlined is direct kinetic action inside Mexico. What could that actually look like?
This is where the strategy really shifts gear. Beyond just defending the border, the U.S. could deploy, say, special forces or use air-to-surface weapons systems to destroy strategic cartel targets within Mexico.
Targets like what?
Could be drone strikes against non-human targets, things like cartel jamming devices that interfere with their own monitoring systems, or drug smuggling tunnels. The idea is to disrupt critical links in the fentanyl supply chain to directly degrade the cartel's ability to operate and threaten the U.S.
That's definitely a clear shift toward a more aggressive, maybe self-reliant posture. It sounds like it's fundamentally about putting America's security interests first, isn't it?
It absolutely is. As conservative foreign policy experts articulate it, this aligns with something called principled realism.
Principled realism.
Yeah, it's a foreign policy view that really prioritizes a nation's own security interests, its direct defense, rather than maybe broader global interventions or nation-building efforts elsewhere. The core idea is that focusing intensely on our own sovereignty, our own regional stability, actually creates a better foundation for peace overall, more so than trying to impose our way of life everywhere. It's a move away from globalism, focusing back on the sovereign nation-state and recognizing that power balances in regions are shifting, sometimes against us, and we need to respond decisively to protect ourselves.
We've certainly covered a lot today, this complex web of cartels, fentanyl, migration, international relations. This deep dive has really explored how U.S. policy might be at a critical juncture, discussing this firm, some would say nationalistic, approach to protect our borders and our people.
Indeed. And the question really for you, the listener, is this. In an era where adversaries might exploit weaknesses, where traditional alliances might falter, can America afford anything less than a strategy that puts national sovereignty first? That uses every available tool to secure its own future. The statistics we talked about, the fentanyl deaths, the sheer power of these cartels highlighted in our sources, they seem to demand a resolute approach, one that actively defends the nation from these immediate and, frankly, growing threats.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay informed, stay engaged.